All right, this is a new concept that it's been around for a while, but it's new to me. This is Cosmos in Collision by Troy McLaughlin and Theodore Holden about early Earth, Saturn, the solar system. So we'll just cut to the chase here. I'll read a little bit of what they say. Our conclusion here is that Saturn, the primordial source of a dim, timeless light, was a dull, glowing sub-brown dwarf star, of which Earth was one of its primary and original satellites, and that Earth was nestled close enough to its original host star to have been enveloped in Saturn's opaque and warming plasma sheath. For humans alive on Earth at that time, there would have been no reference to the greater cosmos, and therefore no reference to any moving celestial object with which they could have marked the passage of time. This was a timeless age in which the dim blue-red light spectrum emanating from Saturn would have cast a dark purple-hued glow over Earth's surface. This, then, was mankind's purple dawn of creation. So this is the next couple shots are going to be artists' representations of what it would have looked like on Earth at that time. Pretty much like a perpetual twilight. It would have been purple sky at all times, everywhere on Earth. And this is called Purple Dawn Theory. It's coupled with Saturn Theory, which is a proponent of the Electric Universe, Thunderbolts Project, etc. Which just basically says that Earth and Mars were satellites of Saturn, as it was a brown dwarf star at the time. Now, I'd read this Purple Dawn Theory, and I thought about it. I thought about making a video about it. I'm like, it seems true, but I'm not quite sure about it. So I'm like, all right, let me watch the football game, and I'll come back to it. And then this is what you call synchronicity. Watch this.
You've been taught that the birthplace of the human race is Earth, but it's not.
All right, that's that's a promo for a movie called Jupiter Ascending that's coming out soon. And as we'll see why it's a synchronicity later here, but first this is a picture of Saturn, Mars, and Earth, of how they would have been situated inside the plasma sheath. So Earth wouldn't have been able to see anything from the outside. As you can see here, basically it's inside Saturn's anode glow, with the plasma sheath on the outside. So the light from Saturn would have radiated off of all of the sides of the plasma sheath and bounced back in. Herein lies a caveat in contemplating life under a brown dwarf star, for it was this enveloping plasma sheath that catastrophically short-circuited and lost its opaqueness when it eventually brushed against the sun's heliosphere during Saturn's approach toward the solar system, an event that is recorded in mythology as the dramatic and destructive flaring of the god Saturn at the start of the fabled Golden Age, which essentially is Genesis, let there be light, creation, and such. So allow me to get a little sciencey on you for a second. This is a Birkeland current. You can see positive, negative electric current, and as it contracts the constricting magnetic fields there, it's what's called a Z-pinch. And you can see two pictures of it in actual life in the universe. So this is what we're saying here, is that there were essentially a Birkeland current jet, as you can see there on the right, and then within that, a Herbig Harrow string, which is kind of like the beads on a string there. And within that, you can see the proto-gas giants, then proto-brown dwarf, and Earth and such. This is a Herbig Harrow object. This is a real picture. See the plasmasphere, Birkeland current, the beads, the double layers, and the protostar, which is on the inside, which would eventually become our sun. And here's another picture. And this is what we think it would have looked like. I'm saying we because I believe this. Jupiter and the proto-sun on the top. All right, so this is a very important one. Jupiter and all its moons, Mercury, and the proto-sun on the northern end of this. And then farther away, beads on the string kind of thing. You got, I don't know about Uranus. I'm not going to put that in there. That's on the diagram, but I don't agree. Neptune, Saturn, and then within Saturn's sheath, you can put Mars and Earth, right? So this is how the solar system basically formed. And this is how the vast majority, if not all, of the solar systems in the universe form. All right, they form like this, and then over time, they eventually coalesce into an orbiting system like we have now. So it would have been Jupiter, Mercury, the Sun, and then farther down along the line, other gas giants that have made their way along: Neptune, Saturn, and Earth and Mars. I know this picture here on the left, the bigger ball with the disk around it is the proto-sun, and the 4 dots above it are captured, as you can see on the right, which would be Jupiter and such. And then the bottom 4 dots go into that spiral on the right, the bottom right, which would be Saturn, Earth, Mars, Neptune, and whatever else might have been included. Other Saturn's moons and such. You can see Saturn, Earth, and Mars inside the plasma sheath. It spirals, and eventually it touches the sun's plasma sheath. Makes first contact, Saturn flares nova-like. Many such contacts are made before Saturn is captured by the sun. So it hits, it rebounds back out, and then it comes back in. And then here is the Butterfly Nebula, and again, double layers, the Z-pinch in the middle, and then you can see where it goes Neptune, Saturn, Mars, Earth, kind of in that very center area, just as an example. And for those of you that don't think the universe is electric, that it's gravitational, and come on, look at this. Look at this. There's electric current flowing from the outside to the inside. You can see the filaments. It's clear as day if you know what you're looking at. The gravity had no business in this picture. Nothing to do with it. It should also be remembered that the lifespan of a Herbig-Haro object is a relatively short-lived affair, lasting in the tens of thousands of years and not the millions of years usually associated with star formation. Things happen quickly where the objects are concerned, and they apparently begin to break up once the protostar at its center develops into a fully fledged main sequence star like our current sun. Any brown dwarfs and their satellites attracted to such a former protostar will be released to form their own planetary nebula while finding their own way in space. This, then, is the possible mechanism for how a separate brown dwarf planetary system is formed within an overall axially aligned Herbig-Haro object. We'll go over that later. According to this scenario, as the main protostar goes main sequence, we are left with a separate planetary nebula formed far down along the former protostar's polar axis. And that's what we were just looking at in those last couple pictures. A planetary nebula whose planets will likely still be aligned according to the polar configuration required by the Earth-Sun relationship of mythology, which I'm going to show you right now. All right, so what you're looking at here, the circle on top is Saturn. Then in the center of that is Mars. And then also this picture has Venus interceding and making a whole mess of the situation, but that's not important. So what they were just talking about is there's a polar configuration where the North Pole of Earth was pointed at one of the poles of Saturn constantly. So Saturn was the North Star, essentially. So all you could see in the northern sky would be Saturn in this polar configuration. And here's another look at it from the outside. So at the bottom of the screen, off screen, would be Earth. Then the first dot up, that red dot is Mars, Venus interceding, and then Saturn on top, and you can see with the ring. So that is the ancient polar configuration. And that paragraph I was reading was talking about axial tilt. Now, these are the 8 planets in the solar system. And as you can see here, Saturn, Neptune, Earth, and Mars are pretty much around 25-degree tilt. And then Jupiter and Mercury and the Sun, not pictured, are at no tilt. And then Venus and Uranus are recently captured objects that really don't play into what we're talking about here. As you can see, Uranus is 97 degrees. It's basically laying on its side. And Venus is essentially 180 degrees. It's upside down. And they're both recently captured into this system. They don't really play into what we're talking about here. So again, I'm just going to show this again. This is important. Throw out Venus and Uranus. Saturn, Neptune, Earth, and Mars formed together. They have the same tilt. Mercury, Jupiter, and the Sun formed together. They have the same tilt. And this is essential to the theory. If you can accept that the tilt is indicative of what formed where and with who, then the rest of this will make complete sense. If not, then this theory is not for you. All right, so due to a bogus copyright strike, I got talking about ISIS. I have to keep this under 15 minutes, and there's no way I can fit the rest in. So I'm going to have to break this into two parts. So the second part, this is basically just the foundation of the theory, I suppose. The second part is going to be where do humans fit into the equation, right? As the theory proposes, and as I'm going to try to show, and as that clip of Jupiter ascending kind of hinted towards, as he said, you've been told that humans are native to this planet. Don't believe what you've been told, or whatever he says. And that's the point, essentially, is that Homo sapiens originated in the Jupiter, Mercury, Sun part of the solar system and are not native to Earth, which was part of the Saturnian system. So somewhere along the line, before, during, or after the encounter with the sun's heliosheath, and we'll go into all this in part 2, and I'll kind of narrow it down. Humans, it's going to sound weird without any context, but humans and dolphins migrated towards Earth. Not all at one time. And then as our original home planet became uninhabitable, the rest of the species that could come over did come over, and then everyone kind of made Earth and Mars home until eventually Mars became uninhabitable, and the only people left were the Homo sapiens on Earth. Because due to the interaction, the original home world, our native world, became uninhabitable. And with Venus coming in and being a complete catastrophe, Mars became uninhabitable. You know, the atmosphere being sucked off and the whole deal. The only Homo sapiens left were the ones that are on Earth and are our ancestors. All right, so if you're still watching at this point, thank you. And I'll try to get part 2 up most likely tomorrow. I have to kind of organize the information I have here. I'm going to put a ton of links down below with this video and of part 2. So if you want to get started before I actually put up the video, the links will be there for you to go check it out for yourself. So to sum up really quickly, Purple Dawn theory, Saturn theory, electric universe, cosmos in collision, Troy McLaughlin, Theodore Holden, and we'll do the rest tomorrow. All right, thanks for watching.